The year that I made a million was 4 years ago, and the same year was the most transformational year of my life. I had an awakening, and things would have never looked the same. So, this is the story of how I made 7 figures in my business, and the same very year I had my spiritual awakening. Basically, what happened is that I was making at the time 100K a month, and I had a coach on manifestation and spirituality. And I clearly remember the time in which I invested in this coach, and in order for me to make more success, to have more successes, as we always want when we are in the matrix, in the reality. And little by little, something was shifting in me without me really understanding what it was. It means that I was start questioning, why am I doing this? And I remember one particular day, I think it was June 2021, my coach told me, well, now you're making 100K a month, let's go for 200K a month. And in the very moment, it's like someone slapped me in the face, and I realized, why? I really asked myself, why? Who I'm doing this for? And I told her, I don't have the goal. I think I never really had the goal to make a million anyway, but there was this survival mode and this just identification of the character and identification to the wound and need to perform, need to be seen, need to be recognized. Was pushing me constantly to more, and even more. And I wasn't absolutely realizing that I was driven and pushed by that. And at that time, when my coach asked me for doing even more, this kind of disrupted my dream. And I started really questioning, do I have a problem with money? And this may appear funny for you, because someone that is making so much money is asking themselves, do I have a problem with money? In the sense, am I attached to money? Am I looking for more and more money? Am I driven by money? I really was so confused about what was pushing me to do all that. I had a mastermind at the time. I had different kind of courses. I was charging even 8,000 for my training to become a coach. I had 8 group of 8 people. It was obvious that I was making that amount of money, but there was something that was coming from a wound, from an egotic need, an egotic desire. I really didn't know what was happening. So time goes by, and we are now in August 2021, and all the desire that I had, the ambition that I have, the goal that I have, I couldn't even force myself to do any of that. I don't know why, and I couldn't understand why at the time. It felt like I was losing my joy, I was losing my enthusiasm. I didn't care about having a goal, or I didn't have any ambition. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know why I was doing all that. And in the same time, the same year, many things happened in my business. People were kind of unhappy with the amount of money they were spending. Some clients were united against me, and it hurt me very much. I had also so many positive experience with some other clients, but those experiences, they're always the one that hurt us the most. And so I was in Mexico, and I remember trying to find answers, trying to understand what was going on with me, why I felt so down, why I felt like my joy wasn't there, why I felt disconnected from all that suddenly, why suddenly I didn't care about all this war of manifestation and making more money, being a successful woman, or being a powerful woman. None of that made absolutely sense anymore. I was in a mastermind of very successful women. I couldn't even bring myself to be in contact with them, sharing with them, being coached by them. And I remember paying 7,000 a month for several months for a mastermind that I wasn't even using. And I didn't have any point of reference about how to do business in another way, how to be in the world in another way. I really felt like completely lost, because everything that made sense until then for me, change your mindset, change your thought. become the woman that you want to be, become the identity of this person that you want to be before being them. All that didn't make any sense for me anymore, but I was left with a void. If all this that was my reality until now and made sense for me until now is not working anymore, or felt anymore, or of actuality for me anymore, just I can't even force myself to use it anymore. Don't even ask me to change my thought one other time. What is left? Without this, there is the way I've been operating in life until now. Who am I? And how I do it? And there is another way. I remember trying to find answers so much. And in that time, I remember there was a coach, Simone Seol, she was very much sharing about the toxicity of the industry of coaching at the time, and manifestation boss and baby boss CEO, wherever. And it kind of helped me to understand, oh wow, this is not healthy, this is not good. And I was inside that for so long. But of course you can even realize when something is working on the matrix that we are living here in, because you're inside. But in the time, my brain, my mind was start, this survival system that were in place, they weren't working anymore. And my soul, my spirit, my something, consciousness, presence, was going exactly in the direction I was supposed to go. But my mind was resisting so much of what was happening. Confusion, desperation, feeling lost, feeling not joyful anymore, feeling so confused, having panic attack or having feeling of dissociations. Then I started using medicinal plants in Mexico because I was trying to find an answer, and I was experiencing something that was, of course, very interesting, because in that experience I could feel and see the ego, the identity, the illusion, the movie I was living in from the perspective of consciousness. But of course, again, my mind couldn't comprehend and understand what was even that. So the experience was felt and was very awakening and very strong, but because my mind couldn't grasp what was happening, it was making me panic. I remember then going to Montreal and having panic attacks, feeling of dissociation again. It was very, very hard to live. Many people call it the night shadow of the soul. I don't remember, even the dark night of the soul. And again, at the time I didn't even know. I was just lost. Then this friend, there was the friend that was actually inviting me to do all these medicinal plants, etc., told me about a guy. Actually, it was her guy. There was also a coach, and she told me, you should really talk to him. I think he can really help you. And oh my God, I felt so lost. And after having so many female coaches until then, I was like, why not trying a man? Maybe things are going to be different. So I took the call with him, and it was in fact different. He invited me to read a book. He told me, you should really read this book before our next call. And this book, what is really interesting is the book of Amy Johnson, Being Human. Amy Johnson is my mentor, and it's been my mentor until then, since then. It wasn't saying nothing different that I've already heard from Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now, or Joe Dispenza, or other people that I was listening to. But for some reason that we never can explain, because awakening happened when awakening happened. It's not something that you can read the book and not feeling absolutely anything. You can read The Power of Now and saying, well, I didn't understand much of this book, it was okay, and not understand anything. I read the book when I was, I think, 25. I'm 35 right now. And at the time, at 25, I couldn't comprehend none of that. I reread it 3 years ago or 2 years ago with a completely other perspective on life. And then I get it. So at the time when I started reading the book, I turned pages after pages, and I had this big revelation of like, wait a second, I'm not my mind, I'm not my emotion, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not the character. And of course, at the time, with an understanding of the time, it felt like I was the observant of that. And it was very helpful for the path I was in at the time. And from there on, my life completely changed. And it was difficult, it was painful, because as many people in the world of spirituality and non-duality, what happened is that I start discovering all this and I think, okay, I'm not my feeling, I'm not my thought. And of course, the brain that is so smart, what is trying to do? It tried to not feel any emotion because it doesn't want to feel pain. So I was completely bypassing emotion, and I was just, oh, just a thought, it's just a thought, it's just a thought, I don't believe it, I don't believe it. I was still pretty much in my mind doing that. So I was identified to my mind, identified to the observant, identified to the character, and the character was trying to not feel, but I wasn't aware. So for months, and after, I think maybe 6 months, maybe 1 year, or maybe 6 months, yeah, I was completely not listening to anything, not feeling to anything from a perspective of it's just the mind, it's just the mind, it's just the mind. But life is so perfect, and God is so perfect that what life is asking us to do is feeling. It's everything that we are here to do, is to feel the feeling. And so in a perfect way, orchestrate all these things for me in order to finally feel. So my ex, we had been having a toxic relationship, comes back and he asked me to be in a relationship. I experienced a very painful, very hurtful relationship again. My head started going in the most horrible way down to the heel, and I had infections and 15 symptoms of the time. I didn't know what the hell was happening to me. I have a video about how I heal all that in my channel if you want to watch it, about medical medium. And again, I was, what is happening to me? And a few months previous to that, I booked a retreat in India because, again, I wanted to connect to awareness and feel the awareness and go even more out of the mind, if we can say more out of the mind, whatever it means. And I go to India and I had the most abusive and horrible experience that I could have because of the people I was with. I didn't experience it in the way my mind wanted to experience it. I remember being very, very peaceful going in the flight to India, and once arrived, the abuse and violence and many other things start happening. And of course, there was so much identification to emotion and thoughts, yet at that point, doing also the panchakarma, so is healing in a center in India, all the emotions start popping up more. And particularly during my period, I always felt so many emotions. And again, what an opportunity to actually feel without the identification. But at the time, all this, I didn't understand it, I didn't know it. I didn't have someone to guide me on that. I was still with that coach, but it wasn't really helping because it wasn't really into non-duality like that. I think it wasn't aware itself of all these things. So what happened in India, I touched absolutely maybe not even in India, actually. It was one of the painful moments. I remember I was reading a book that is called Spiritual Constipation. Absolutely hilarious. Please, if you want to read the book, read the book. But it makes you understand that the ego doesn't exist. And I started seeing deeper and deeper other things that I couldn't see at the time. And then after coming back to India, I come back to Mexico, and again my health was very, very horrible. It was painful. It was absolutely I can't even tell you. Breaking up with my ex, I found this person that is actually my fiance right now, and this healthy, beautiful human being brought up all the human part that I was rejecting and not wanting to feel and judging and oppressing inside myself. So it helped me to actually see that there's humanity here, and I can be with the humanity and feel it fully and not believe in the story. And so what happened at the point, we are now in 2022, and we are starting a relationship, and I start having ROCD, which is obsessive compulsive thoughts in the relationship. And again, if we take away the label, it's just a lot of thoughts and anxiety on the relationship. But it was so horrible to experience that, all these doubts, and what if he's not the right one? What if I don't love him? At the point, my business was starting to change. I couldn't do the stuff that I was doing before. My revenue started to change. So after making 7 figures, I started going down. But I didn't care. I didn't care because at that point I was starting also detaching from external thing, in particular need to validation and need to be seen, and social media and money. It felt more and more like freedom. And then my relationship was challenging me, and I started doing therapy. And therapy came into my life at a point where I was bypassing spiritually, so it was a very good united thing. Like here I had the path of non-duality, which is I'm not my thought, I'm not my emotions, and here, and still I'm a human and I can be with this. And today I don't use the therapy and the tools anymore because I kind of healed the trauma that was here, and feeling now is not scary anymore because there's less identification of the feeling, there's less resistance to the feeling, the less pain and sufferance to the feeling. But at the time, it is a tool that actually really helped me to experience the feeling and process all this emotion that I was trying to avoid in an unconscious way so much before trying to becoming successful and feeling powerful. And many women and many people that try to have success today do the same. They try to do it from a place of rebellion or revenge, of I wanted to be seen. It's just the protective part in us that is fighting to be finally heard and held and because there is a part, there is suffering behind. And so is a pretext to not feel the feeling. We try to avoid feeling, taking this place of warrior and successful woman. And so life happened so perfectly for me in such a perfect way. And after a year and a half of therapy, I started don't needing the therapy anymore. I started having mentors about non-duality that seemed at the time more in the line of where I was in my spiritual path. And little by little, my understanding and my vision about who I really am, and the non-identification, and the oh wow, there's never been a me, and what am I really, what is always aware, felt deeper and deeper and deeper. And every day, every month, every year, even if this doesn't exist, I was going deeper and deeper, and I'm still going deeper and deeper. I'm experiencing all this every time deeper. And every time I have my mentor that guide me, and today I guide people in non-duality in the same path when they're experiencing the same things. Some of them had successful business and they happen exactly the same thing. And some of them are struggling and they are so attached to the fact of succeed because they still think they are a me that is trying to succeed. And it's an amazing journey that is never ending. And it's just beautiful when my focus is not anymore in what I can become and what I can achieve. And it's exhausting all this. And it's on, wait a second, who am I really? Am I this, or am I the space in which all this is happening? It was such an amazing journey. So this is the story of how becoming a millionaire also allowed me to have this spiritual awakening. There is never ending, and there is the most beautiful gift that life itself put on my path, even if it doesn't make any sense, this sentence. I'm so grateful for seeing things in the way I can see them today. And I'm so grateful for the pain and the sufferings that I was experiencing at the time, because it was needed. I had to go through all that because my mind was so attached to so many things, and it had to break in order for light to come. There is this little break in my protection system that was happening, and God could enter at the time. There is a beautiful sentence about that in the movie Eat, Pray, Love, and the book that I love, and it's exactly that. And thanks to the fact that things were breaking, God could enter. So I hope you enjoy this story. I hope you tell me yours, please, in the comments. Tell me, where are you now in your spiritual path and spiritual awakening? And tell me if something similar happened to you. Thank you for watching. Bye.